So you've gone through a few career pivots that you mentioned there, from starting out studying science to marketing to now being a CTO. What advice, Alan, would you give to people that have been working in a particular field for a while and they want to make a career transition into something else? Most people, they go to uni, they stumble and fall into their first kind of job, and then that's their career for the rest of their lives, basically. And people don't realize what they do at A-levels or uni will oftentimes be what they're doing when they're, in the later stages of their career. But you've kind of broken that mold a bit and done something that most people don't do, and you've worn many hats and shifted to different sectors and industries and fields. So what tips would you give to somebody that wants to do similar to what you did and try out different verticals?
It's a great question. I would argue that I followed the path that you described early, which was I studied sciences at uni because I was good at it.
Yeah.
So I thought I'll get a good degree, which will then set me up. I then took a crack at using that degree within the sphere that, I'd got the degree in, and kind of realized I'd made a bit of a mistake. So I think having an awareness and the confidence to realize you might have made a mistake early, and that's really hard when you're starting out in your career. I think one of the benefits, well, you're much closer to this than me, but one of the benefits of now is it seems okay to change careers more now than it was back in my day.
I think so.
I think there was an expectation, hang on a minute, you've done 3 jobs in 3 years, what's wrong with you? I think that's changed now, for the better, I would argue. So there's something about actually just recognizing you've landed somewhere that isn't right. And actually, when you critically analyze it, and you literally do the pros and cons, if it's not going to get any better, it's probably never going to get any better. So it's then saying, what is it that I'm looking for? And you might not know what the next thing is, or you might just naturally fall into it. I'm a bit flippant about how I've landed where I've landed. There was a logic to it. I saw the growth of technology and cloud earlier than others.
Yeah.
So I thought, actually, I'll probably put myself into that space. So there's something about actually, if you're genuinely interested in something, trying to put yourself into that space is a good start. One of the big problems is, certainly back in my day, you could never get a marketing job unless you had marketing experience. It's that classic cycle.
Chicken and the egg.
Yeah. So I think persistence, resilience, being confident in your own skills. You don't oversell. You'll get found out. Yeah. When I recruit developers, they're always shocked that I never do a coding test.
Sure.
And they will literally say, so the next step is the coding test. I'm like, no, I wouldn't do that. And the question is always why. And I'll say, we're a really small, tight team. It'll become very apparent if you can't do what you say you can do.
Yes.
There's no fat in this team.
Yeah.
So, when I've been recruiting, we've lost a couple of people who've obviously decided that isn't the environment for them.
Sure.
So actually, that's a good investment in terms of being honest. And that you're in recruitment. The whole recruitment bit, recruiting in talent, for me, is all about fit. It's a two-way street. Yeah. And I know when you're starting out, it's hard to get going, and you want to get a great job and you want a great salary. So you tend to jump at things. But actually the fit will always be the best thing. If your days are measured by the work that you're doing, not, it's, Sunday evening and I'm dreading going in on Monday morning. I haven't had that feeling for a long time. Yeah. And I'm very lucky in that sense.
Me neither, thankfully. Touch wood.
And it's a beautiful place to be. So I would argue, look for that more than my brother's a barrister, and he was very lucky. He landed on law very early and knew that's where he wanted to go. And I've always been jealous of that. It's that laser focus. Sure. This is what I'm doing, and I'm doing it. I don't know that I had that laser focus. So it doesn't mean you drift. You're just aware of where you are at any point in time.
Yeah,
that was a bit rambly, but
no, it makes sense. And I like from what I got there, you're not just talking about that fit tech skill wise, because like you said, in a small team, very very quickly it will become apparent if you're full of shit, right?
Yeah, completely.
But it's more about the culture fit that you're talking about, and the team dynamics, because you can learn skills, but you can't learn like a positive attitude, or it's a lot harder to learn that stuff as opposed to the...
It really is. This is where, and I know diversity, thankfully, has become very front of the agenda now.
Sure.
But actually diversity in technology, I think, has always been there. I think technology has always attracted a diverse set of people. Yeah. I was at a conference the other day and I was talking to somebody who's involved in neurodiversity, and it's fascinating. Absolutely fascinating, because you literally have this situation of a lot of tech roles are highly concentrative, highly repetitive, and demand, close attention. Yeah. Neurodiverse people can do that all day long.
Superpower,
Literally, they can do it all day long.
If they're autistic or ADHD or something like that. In many, many jobs, it can be a real challenge.
Oh.
As a developer, that could be a golden ticket.
And then what you do as a manager of people is actually do what you were describing, which is you just keep an eye on the fit. You just basically say, is the overhead of managing this person too high? Are the other team going to suffer if this person, takes 90% of the attention and the time? Or can you shape the team to say, no, this is the star performer, and that's what we need right now, and that's how we're going to operate?
Yeah.
So team dynamic is everything, it always has been.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. What makes a good CTO?
I would argue, it's a good question. For a CTO like me, you've got to be close to the business. You've got to understand the business aim. Yeah. So I live at that, I function very well at that nexus of business need, business priority, objectives, and then the technology priorities as well. So whilst not coding, I do have a bit of a talent of spotting technology and exploiting it well. So what I do is look at a piece of technology and say, yeah, that's going to fit to this need that we have over here. And then very quickly throw it out to the team and say, what are the implications of this? What are the implications of using, if I brought this piece of technology along? And one of the things we're talking about at the moment is very much, can we write less code, not more?
Sure, yeah.
So we want to be assemblers of tools now, tools that are best for purpose. And that mindset is very different from a standard developer role of, here's a feature, write the test, crunch out the code, push it, does it work? Yes. Go to Jira, pull down the next ticket. That idea that actually you become assemblers of tools to solve problems is a different way of doing it. So I think there's something about knowing what the business is, alignment. I'm very big on getting engineering as close to product as possible. I know some organizations like very clear lines between those two silos. I think the closer you get engineering to product, the better. Because you can have a technologist in the room, and let's say you went to an architect and said, what I want is a ceiling with no walls. The architect might go away and say, that's an intellectual challenge. I'll have a go at that. And then they'll come back and go, bad news, you need at least 2 walls. Now, that's a very flippant example, but if you have a technologist in the room that says, okay, I hear what you're trying to achieve, and thanks for trying to solution it for me. But actually, if you went this way, you'd get where you wanted to go, but the friction would be less. Sure. So I think the closer you can get engineering into the room at the right time, because devs hate sitting there twiddling their thumbs.
Yep.
So you get them in at the right point and say, this is the problem we're trying to solve, articulate it well, and let the people that have the knowledge answer that problem and not be in the way. I can be quite dangerous sometimes because I get very excited about ideas, and I go in a room and wave my arms around and go, this is amazing, we can do this, this and this. And people will go, Alan, stop designing on the fly, articulate the problem. It's not your job to provide the solution, just articulate the problem.
Yeah, I can be the same as you, man.
And it's really hard not to do it because you see it, and then, So again, coming back to that CTO thing, I think there's a little bit of bravery in CTOs, and people often underestimate it, where you're making decisions that have, architectural decisions that have to stand up in 3 or 4 years' time, when the business may well have pivoted 4 or 5 times in that period. So you're trying to see ahead and go, okay, I think this is the direction of travel, if I've understood it well. I believe this technology is robust enough, and it'll be around in 4 or 5 years' time, because you need a community of users to keep any piece of code alive. And then we're going to stick our flag down and say, that is it. That is what we're going to build everything around. Sure. So we made a shift from Ruby into React and Node and serverless, mainly because we knew it was right, and we knew that the scale from that architecture was going to stand us in good stead going forward. And we'll find out in the next 2 or 3 years whether that was the right call or not. But it feels right at the moment. So
you've got React on the front end, Node, microservices architecture sort of thing on the back end.
Completely.
Anything else? It's kind of like what you.
Well, we're keeping Jeff flying to the moon. Let's put it that way. I mean, it seems like if there's another AWS service, we're buying it.
Yeah, expensive, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's something. I don't know whether it's deliberate or not with AWS, but they're quite good at not producing doc. They're quite good at pushing a service out and going, here it is, you go and have a play with it. So we've just gone through a journey using various tools like Firehose and Glue and Athena, and assembling them in a way that we need them. And actually one of the developers, Josh, who's utterly brilliant, he's working on it at the moment. And I said to him, you should write the doc and sell it on Amazon, because what you've done, it just isn't out there. So yeah, we are keeping Jeff, very wealthy, but actually that comes back to my point of they're the right tools for the job. So we're putting the pipe around all of these tools that just exist to solve a problem, primarily.